Hello, everybody. Welcome to Birth Your Vision podcast show. Today, I'm so excited to welcome my amazing guest, the beautiful Monica. She's going to be sharing some amazing inspirational stories for us today. So, thank you so much to all our amazing viewers for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you here with us. So, on today's episode, we are going to be talking all about resilience. We're going to be talking about how to build resilient muscle. And joining me is the wonderful Monica, who is going to be sharing her inspirational story of how she's been able to overcome, as well as a story of courage as well. So, first, before she comes on, I just want to introduce her. So, she is an amazing, wonderful woman who has been doing such an amazing job. So, Monica, she is actually born and raised in Zimbabwe. She moved to the United Kingdom in 1994 and lived there for about 21 years before moving to Canada, where she now lives. Monica is a multi-best-selling international author and compiler. She is a certified life coach, she's a speaker, and a publisher. She also compiles wonderful stories to help others to heal. She has definitely compiled so many wonderful anthologies and written a solo book. But in 2020, she has since birthed Salve TV. And, she's also hosted her own wonderful self podcast platform. And she's able to actually educate people in Shona as well as in English. She also has an amazing inspirational project, helping kids internationally. This is a wonderful charity which provides library books to children living in rural Zimbabwe. And she loves documentaries, walking, as well as traveling. So, it's really a great pleasure to welcome the wonderful Monica to the show. Thank you so much for coming, Monica.
It's such an honor to be here, Hannah.
Thank you so much. You are amazing. I just want to appreciate you and to really celebrate your wonderful accomplishments as well as your journey and your story as well. And we are so truly happy to welcome you to tonight's podcast. And I really just want to know about Monica. I want to kind of introduce some of the wonderful things that you are currently doing right now.
Thank you. Who is Monica? Sometimes I ask myself, who am I? And I think Monica is an amazing sister,
Yeah.
a leader, a mentor, and we have gifts. And I think I would call myself a healer in the sense that the gifts that we have, we use them to help others. And for me, I use anthologies. As a life coach, I use my coaching to work with my co-authors to write real life stories in order to heal. So many people compile anthologies. They just ask their authors to submit their stories. The story goes to the editor, and then they give them back the copy of what has been edited and say, voila, the book will be out on such a day. I do not do it that way. If I'm working with an author, I have asked for a real life story. And as we know, our real life stories, some of them are traumatic.
Yes.
And when someone submits their story to me, I then read the story using my skills as an author, using my skills as someone who's also worked in mental health, in the mental health field for over 15 years. And then using my experience as a mentor, as a human being, as a sister, and as a woman.
Yes.
We cannot underestimate the power of intuition as well. which is a gift that most women have. So I read this story and I can pick up where maybe someone is avoiding to face the pain, or has actually left the chunk of the story out so that they avoid, for one reason or another, whether it is fear of actually opening themselves up
Yes.
to the world, or just facing the pain.
Mm.
And so we meet up and we talk about that. And I'm usually amazed at the second draft that I get after we've had that meeting to talk about where maybe something was missing, or where maybe something is not clear.
Yeah.
Because I'm not attached to the story, it's not mine. I
Mm.
look at it with different set of eyes.
Yes.
And I'm able to pick up areas where I need to, in some of the stories that I have covered, just to give an example so that people understand some of the stories that are in the anthologies.
Yeah.
People who are dealing with probably near suicide experiences,
Mm-hmm.
people who are dealing with the burden that they have carried from childhood of knowing that maybe their parent killed their sibling,
Right.
stories like that.
Mm.
Stories, most of the stories, we carry shame, and some of that will not be our fault.
Yes.
But writing it gives the opportunity to let go of the shame and
Absolutely.
and really reach your potential.
Indeed. Thank you so much for sharing that powerful message. Your story is so inspiring, and I really want you to share, your journey with us, because I know that you've been able to turn your story into a profitable business. And this is the power of really sharing our stories with the world and really encouraging other people to also use their voice, as a tool, as a powerful tool to be able to reach other people and encourage them to share their powerful stories, because we all have different stories, different experiences in life. We've all been through different types of adversities and challenges and hardships, but we are still here and we're still standing. And one of the reasons why I've been able to create this wonderful platform for such women like yourself is to really allow you to really share your voice with the world. Is to really allow you to open up and allow other people to really feel that journey that you've been through. And it's really great to really listen to what you've experienced. So if you can just sort of share briefly your journey and your story, how you've been able to turn it into a profitable business.
Absolutely. Before I go into that, I just want to make a small note to say to people, there is no story that is not important, because sometimes you hear somebody else's story and you go, oh my God, mine is insignificant. It is not as dramatic, which is what people say. So really, there's nothing to my story. There is no way you are given an experience for you to keep.
Yeah.
The experience has got to be different so that it ushers something that is unique to somebody else. The
Yes,
person who
indeed.
hears my voice and listens to it is not necessarily the person who listens to your voice and listens to it. So
Yeah.
there's something for someone out there from somebody. So I thought I'll just throw it in there so that nobody would ever think that their story is insignificant.
Absolutely. And I do agree with you. Everybody's story is very valid, and it's very important that we continue to share that story, because our story is there to encourage other people, is there to motivate and to also inspire other people. So I definitely agree with you.
Yeah. And so I grew up in a community that did not allow the girl child to go to school. And this is something that is happening in other communities in Africa and maybe other parts of the world. And when that happened, I pretty much knew what I wanted. My father had kind of instilled a lot of wisdom nuggets in me before I reached the point where this age thing would affect me, where I'll be told to not to go to school. And so when that time came, I had already made up my mind. I knew that at school I was doing pretty well. And I knew that my father cared about my education to a point where he paid attention to my report and where I was lacking, and we would talk about it. I knew that. But when the time came, it's not something that I wanted, because I was already seeing myself at university. I was already dreaming. I knew I had a choice. But being told that, no, really, you don't have a choice. At this age, you need to stop going to school and probably pursue the principles of this religion and maybe get married at probably at the age between 14 and 17.
Yeah.
I didn't want that. And in most cases, these girls were marrying men who were much, much older. And it was a polygamous setting.
Wow.
And so what happened was, at one point we went to a conference, and usually it was at these conferences where the men would choose who they wanted. And there was I would say, an admiring suitor, right? He was way older and he had 11 wives. So if I
Wow.
had agreed to be his wife, I would have been the 12th one. And what they used to do those days was, if they approached you and you said no,
Yeah.
they would kidnap you. And if they did that, whether he has actually touched you or not, here I'm saying whether it slept with you or not, you couldn't go back home because you would have been considered soiled. And so you can't go back home, and the people at home we're not allowed to accept you back.
Wow.
And I knew that I was not going to allow this to happen to myself. So whenever I went to these conferences from boarding school, I always kept a little bit of cash on me. I wouldn't spend all my pocket money. I would keep a little bit. And so I ended up always carrying a lot of money with me, so that if such time came that I needed to run away and save myself, I had enough money to take me wherever I wanted to go. And after I went to this conference and I rejected the proposal by one of the leaders, I knew then that my life was in danger that particular night. Evening came, it got dark because it was a camping site. There were no lights everywhere because it was out in the bush at the camping site.
Yeah.
I needed to disguise myself. So what I did was to pick up my 6-month half brother. I carried him on my back. But before carrying him, I covered my clothes to make sure that nobody would identify me by what I was wearing in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Covered all my clothes and covered my head. The only part I left were my eyes. And I asked 2 of my friends to protect me. So as I was walking, they assumed I was a young mother.
Right.
Evening time, men came out in droves, and they had torches and sticks, and they were just, as people were socializing and kind of mingling, they were looking for me.
Yeah.
And whenever they met a group of people, they would describe me. Have you seen her? She wears glasses. She was dressed in a red dress and this and that and that. But each time they approached me and my friends,
Yeah.
I'll take off my glasses and hide them because I was carrying the baby. So I'll just appear as though I was just holding the baby who was at my back. I was hiding my glasses. And my heart was in my mouth. the whole time. And this happened several times where they would approach us and say, we are looking for her. She looks like this, that, and the other. I remained quiet whilst they were talking to my other teenage friends. Eventually that ended, and I went back to the tent, and I remember just falling apart then.
Wow.
And I cried, and I was looking at this baby, and I was like, do you even know what you did? You saved my life. I was only 15. I don't know where I got the mind to do that. And the courage as well. Because I didn't ask the mother. The baby was already sleeping, really. He didn't need to be carried. But I just thought, you know what?
Yeah.
This is a do or die situation. I have to do it. And from there, eventually 2 years down the line, when that came up again, that I should stop going to school and go to that church, I had vowed earlier on that I'll never be in this situation again, no matter what. You need to make promises to yourself as to what you can take and what you can't. And I think this is where most women end up staying for years in relationships that are not working, because they have not set that boundary to say, this I can take, this I can't. I was only 17. I say, this I can take, this I can't. And there is no way that I'm going back to that environment and put myself in a predicament.
Yes.
Because having escaped the first time, there was no guarantee that I'll escape the second time.
Yes.
Those guys would have been wiser now. And they probably would come out in full force. So I wasn't going to do that. I finished my O-levels. That topic came up again. And then this time I was like, okay, now it's time to run away. So I ran away, and I went to my maternal side of the family, because my parents had divorced when I was very young. And I pursued my education. I'm not saying it wasn't hard. I'm not saying it didn't eat me up, because I had such a strong relationship with my father. And running away meant that I was prepared to forgo the relationship that I had with the only parent that I'd lived with from age 3. Sometimes you need to make tough decisions, because there will be light at the end of the tunnel. But if you don't, and you want to stay safe all the time, this safety will compromise a lot more other things further down the road.
Yeah.
So I managed to run away, and I went to my maternal parents, grandparents. I went to university. I studied sociology, and then eventually went to live in the UK, where my mom was. Worked in mental health. I've always known that I want to work with people. I don't do so well with just facing a machine and that, which is why even working with my clients, I actually want to know you. I want to know your story. You don't just give me a written document. We talk about it. We go through it. We cry together. We laugh together. And that is where I find my satisfaction, because I'm realizing that if I ask the person to take a photograph of themselves before they share their story, and a photograph of themselves on the day that the book has been published, you will see two different people. There is power in putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard to share your story. Because as you are doing that, you're actually taking layers off of whatever blanket that you're carrying, a wet blanket, which has been heavy. So it could be a blanket of shame. It could be a blanket of fear. It could be whatever blanket. So as you take off these layers, you are building your resilience muscle, because it is this weight that prevents you from growing. It is this weight that prevents you from stepping out and reaching your potential, because you are thinking, I'm not worth it.
Yes.
No one will read my story. No one will believe me. So unless you take all that off, the confidence, the self-esteem, the self-worth, all that starts to emerge.
Yes.
And when you build that, then you now have the confidence to do whatever business that you want to go into. Because if you're still carrying that, people can read that you yourself, you feel like a fraud, right?
Yeah.
So you need to get rid of all those excess baggage,
Yes.
so that when you're standing there, don't wait for all the confidence to come. You build it up slowly. You want to be a speaker, you need to practice it. You want to be on camera, you need to keep practicing it. And that second voice, whatever, many voices that will say, you're not good enough, you're not, keep practicing until it becomes second nature. It's the same thing that happened when we learned how to drive. It
Yeah.
felt awkward, it felt silly, it felt, you're thinking, why did I look and look again, and look and look again? It felt silly, but now it's second nature. Sometimes someone would say to you, can you describe what happened from when you went downtown to your house? You don't even know how you did it. You just
Yeah.
know you got in the car and you got home. And it's the same with all the skills that we want to acquire, to practice, to feel silly, to embarrass ourselves at times. But
Yeah.
this is how you build your resilience muscle. We need it. We need it in life because we face tragedies. We need it in business. Look at how COVID has just shaken every aspect of our lives. And it is those who were shying away from building the resilience muscle who are struggling the most. But it's not too late. They can start however small effort they make to start
Yes.
building that resilience muscle, because it is a necessary muscle to build, because it will help you face anything in life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Honestly, I absolutely love your journey. What you've shared so far. And it's so real, it's so authentic. And your story truly matters, especially when you tell it. Because it's your
Yes.
story and it's your experience, And what I've seen is that by you sharing it, there is healing, and you have healed through the process. And not only healed, you've been able to kind of, have a lot of courage, because it takes a lot of courage for a 15-year-old girl to be able to identify the scenario, the kind of situation she's in, and how to actually escape that scenario, And I really want to commend you for the journey you've been through. And you didn't even allow the journey to limit you achieving or accomplishing your dreams. You did your O levels, you went on to now do, numerous educational projects. And, you've been able to now even turn this into a profitable coaching business, which is truly amazing. The power of our story can actually just change our lives, and it can also help other people to heal as well. So let's continue to share our story. And the message tonight is of courage, of resilience, and is of hope, and is of faith as well, because all these things is what really allow us to really kind of come out and be able to really testify the journey of what we've actually been through. So, let's talk about building a resilient muscle. Resilience is something in itself that can be quite tough for some people, you know. So it's important that we understand how to build those simple resilient strategies. So take us through how we can actually build resilient muscle. in any given situation?
Okay. In any given situation, the way you would build your resilience, you need to acknowledge what you're going through.
Yeah.
You cannot heal or sort out what you're failing to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Acknowledging that there is something that is missing here, or there is something that there are some shortcomings that will enable you to either look for help or just go on the internet and look for materials that you can read which are life edifying, because it is important for you to continuously look for something that is life edifying.
Absolutely.
And to have the courage to be vulnerable, and also the courage to realize that when you have a story, there are other people that are involved in it. And something that might stop you from sharing your story is what other people would say about me.
Yeah.
What other people would think about me. So, for example, I went to a boarding school. And whilst I was in boarding school, because people were aware of this religious group, and most people did not want to be associated with it because of their principles, I didn't want to admit to my fellow pupils that I go to that. And there was a lot of hiding because I didn't want to be bullied.
Yeah.
But it meant that I was carrying a secret, right? In most cases, I wore a mask. But you need to know when to take off the mask, because it doesn't serve you. By sharing your story, you are taking off the mask. You put it down and you say, here I am. And so if you stand up on stage to speak,
yeah,
people can see you. People can relate to what you're saying. They can connect with you.
Yes.
But if you're wearing a mask, they do not know who to connect with. Because we are spiritual beings, there's certain things that you cannot fake.
Yeah.
I cannot fake a connection with you as another human being. So wearing a mask is the worst form of disempowering yourself. You just need to be real, bear it all, and start to heal those wounds and grow, build the resilience. And it is from healing those wounds sometimes where you discover your purpose.
Yes.
Your purpose is wrapped up in those wounds. You have traveled the journey. So you don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to school to learn anything, because your journey has taught you a master's program.
Absolutely. It's true. Yeah.
That particular experience. So with that, you just come and say, this, I've lived it, I've experienced it, and this is how it feels. Obviously, it's different from everybody, but you've got somewhere to start in helping others to say, can I show you how to walk this path?
Yes, absolutely. You are definitely right. Being a resilient woman, it's really, really powerful. It has it's about believing in yourself. It's about being aware of yourself and your surrounding. It's about believing and channeling your energy, in a positive way. And, there's so many ways that we can actually build up our resilient skills. And I want us to talk about that. And just before we talk about it, I just wanted to kind of share and encourage those who are watching us in terms of who are struggling with being resilient. So these skills will actually help you to build your resilience in any capacity, whether you are a woman in business, or whether you are going through some form of hardships or maybe some form of struggle. and you are struggling in this area. So number one is really about cultivate a belief in your ability to cope. My guest shared about how she was able to escape from a very difficult situation as she was growing up, during her teenage years. So it's about cultivating a belief in your ability to cope. And then number two is really about staying connected with sources of support. I remember in her story, she shared that there were one or two people around her who was able to help and to support her. So it's really important that we stay connected to the source and to the support around us. And then number three, it's really about talking about what you're going through. So today, my guest is sharing the story about her journey, a story of resilience and a story of courage, how she was able to go through those adversities, but she's able to turn those adversities into something positive, something powerful that will motivate you and I to become better people. And then number four is about be helpful to others. Be helpful to others. Give when you can. Support other people. Those things are very, very important. And obviously, cultivate an attitude of survivorship. And that is something that I wanted to commend you for, because you were able to survive and overcome this adversity, and not many people are able to do that, because your story is very, very similar to many stories that's happening now in so many different countries, where young girls are being deprived of education, where young girls are being, you know, pressured into getting married at a very young age, all for the sake of so many reasons. And it's important that we continue to raise this awareness and we continue to share our stories in different types of platforms, such as this one, so that the women all around the world who recognize this situation, who recognize this problem, start to form a group, a support group, to be able to really speak out together, because together we are more powerful. Together we can actually create more impact and more influence. And so it's really, really important that we continue to build up our resilient skills and encourage one another to share our stories. So I really just want to go into, some of the skills that you've been able to help your clients with when it comes to them building their resilience.
I think the first skill is just having the courage to tell your story. And what I normally say is that, remember, it is your story, your perspective, your experience. So don't let anyone come to you and say you lie, because that was what you were experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
When you then accept that I do have a right to tell my story as I experienced it, you won't worry about what everybody else says, because as they saw it, even though you might have been in the same environment, it was their own view, their own perspective, and their own experience, which was not necessarily yours.
Yes.
So that's the first one. The second one is to sit down and to think, where do I want to go? What do I want to achieve? Because if you don't have a destination for anything, then you can't be motivated to fight for anything. You can't even fight for survival, because you're just thinking, for what?
Yeah, exactly.
So there must be a reason for you to want to fight for something. And it's more impactful if it's not all about you.
Yeah.
It has to be about other people.
Definitely.
Say, for example, right now, what I'm focusing on is to set up, because these things are still happening, is to set up a sanctuary to rescue some of these girls who are not able to avoid child marriages, because they are in a community that has got grandmothers who went through that, mothers who went through that. And these are strong voices that
Yes.
they listen to. And the outside of that, they don't have anybody else, because that is their community. But you and I know better. We
Yeah.
know that these kids are future leaders. We know that we need them, because as we grow and age, they are going to be the ones who are going to take over. So we
Yeah.
cannot afford to ignore this problem. A child who marries too young runs a risk of dying young,
Yeah.
runs the risk of living in abject poverty. And we know what abject poverty does to communities. And if women are not empowered, communities suffer.
Yeah.
And the third one is that being intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be intentional and work at it. Nothing comes easy because you are building something that needs to last. Work at it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be challenging. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
have roadblocks
Yeah.
sometimes, but also remember where you have been. So now, if I face a challenge as I am right now, I will look at the situation. Say, for example, years later, I was in an abusive relationship.
Mm.
And guess what? I sat down and I think, what would that 17-year-old girl do? She wouldn't put up with things like that.
Yeah.
And so I consult that girl, I consult her, and I know she's still there and she is feisty, she is determined. I get that determination, so I don't stay in relationships that do not save me, whether
Yeah.
it is between myself and my friends. If the relationship is disempowering, I don't keep that relationship. If it's me with a partner, if it's not serving me and it is putting me in a situation where they continuously chip at my resilience muscle that I have worked so hard for,
Yeah.
we are done.
Definitely.
Because when I'm now working to empower other women, I need to have something to give them. I cannot give them what I don't have. So it
Yes.
is important that I guard my self-worth, I guard my confidence and my self-esteem with what's the word I'm looking for?
Mm.
I need to guard them fiercely.
Absolutely. Definitely. What is it that really defines a resilient woman? What would you say really defines a resilient woman?
A resilient woman has got purpose,
Yeah.
and a resilient woman is driven. A resilient woman does not just think about today. A resilient woman thinks about the future. A
Mm.
resilient woman understands that they are leaders,
Yes.
and so they need to extend their hand to help another who
Mm.
might be still in the process of building their own muscle.
Yeah.
A resilient woman is not afraid of another powerful, resilient woman,
Yeah.
because a resilient woman understands that we are given unique gifts, so that
Yes.
we collaborate, we work together, and each one of us serves their purpose for the good of the world.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
mhm, you
Hmm.
never see a resilient woman saying, "Oh, she wants to do what I'm doing. She's competing with me." There's no such thing as competition. There's no
Yeah.
such thing as that. We are all bringing something different. We cannot
Exactly.
compete.
Indeed.
Mhm.
Absolutely. A resilient woman has a strong belief in herself, you know, and she stays on the path that she is on, and she faces a own journey, you know, authentically, unapologetically, and she stays in her own lane without having to, um, you know, fall apart. You understand? And also, she's able to also create her own seat, her own platform, and also invite other people to that platform, to that table, because a resilient woman isn't envious, you know, she isn't jealous. She brings people to the table and she celebrates other people. And that really describes you and I in the work that we are doing to really raise, um, you know, a lot of support and courage to women all around the world through our platform, which is truly amazing. So tell us more about your coaching program and what you offer.
My coaching, the first one is the one where I help people share their stories, which is sharing of an anthology.
Yeah.
When the story is shared, it means that the author is able to order their own book copies and sell them. And in most cases, it gives them the opportunity to realize that there's nothing mysterious about writing, and
Mm-hmm.
there is nothing too glamorous about being an author, because most people think, oh, it's not for me. I could never be an author. It's for celebrities. I could never. So it demystifies that. But
Yeah.
there are some of my clients have gone from just sharing one chapter, they have gone to write their own solo books. And now they are excelling in their own businesses. And I am an example of that. The first story I shared was in 2014. I shared one chapter and it was 1,500 words. That was the chapter. And I often say 1,500 words changed my life, because what it did then is I realized that, oh my God, this
Mm.
writing is healing, but I don't want to heal just by myself. I want to help others. I want to help, especially Black people,
Mm.
because we shy away from writing, and yet it's healing, it's inspiring. We also need to encourage our children to use the power of writing so that
Yes.
we can shape our own history. We narrate our own history, and now people are not talking about us when we are just sitting there and grinning. We have got the skills, and
Mm.
so we can do that. And so from sharing the one story, I ended up, now I have compiled 5 anthologies. I'm preparing to work on my sixth one.
Wow. That's amazing. So how can people get involved with what you're doing right now?
They can look for me, Monica Kunzekweguta, on Facebook or on LinkedIn, and they can send me messages so that we can discuss about the next story, the next book that's coming up.
Yeah.
It's for women, and it's about a gratitude inspired life. We have experienced so much during
Yes.
this pandemic, but
Mm.
we have also a lot to be grateful for, especially when
Absolutely.
you have a business and there are others who their businesses have started during this time.
Yes.
Share your story of gratitude
Mm.
so that you remind other people that, you know what, some of these challenges, they propel you to achieve. Share the gratitude so that your focus changes. And then in expressing your gratitude, you also map out a vision of building your business even further.
Yes, absolutely. Gratitude is key in everything that we do. We need to express gratitude. I've shared a lot about gratitude with the women's in my network. I've expressed how to show gratitude in all situation. I think it's so important when we, talk about business and even our everyday life as well. There's so much to be thankful for, knowing that we've just kind of step out of, the pandemic. and so many stories of people kind of losing lots of money in terms of their business, not making a lot of money. Even businesses were shutting down during the pandemic. It's been really, really tough. But there is a story there. There is a testimony there, for you and I and other people who are watching, who have experienced something totally different and something totally magnificent. And that is really worthy to be shared. And these are some of the stories that you compile together to be able to support many women and men in business as well. And I'm very interested in that, definitely. So as we kind of round up, I just wanted us to talk about some of the strategies to build business resilience. If you can just give us one or two to build business resilience, that would be really great.
To build business resilience,
Yes.
you work in a network. You are not going to say, oh, I need to protect this idea, because you might be limited as to what you know. Yes, you have the idea, but you don't know much more. There are other people who have done it before you. They have seen all the pitfalls, they've seen all the challenges, and they can help you out.
Yes.
In either achieving your goal quicker, but also in learning about the business and learning about yourself as you build this business. They'll give you tips and advice. And
Yes.
secondly, be flexible, because you might have this idea, or your business could be going this way, but
Yeah.
it is your passion and you believe this is it. But you need to have the ability to also listen to the Most High. Because what you might be thinking is your business might be just slightly linked to it. The business is going in a different direction.
Absolutely.
So just listen in and think, is this what I am supposed to be doing? And if it's not moving anywhere, what message do I need to listen out for? And the right thing, when it comes, it keeps you alive. And I remember when I started compiling, it's not a walk in the park. Compiling a book is not a walk in the park. And I remember thinking, I'm not doing it again. There is no way I'll do this again, because working with people is difficult. But money comes from people, right? Money comes from opportunities. Working with people is difficult. I can't be bothered. I had to talk to someone so many times. You also need to understand that they're going through their own challenges. They're going through their own journeys. They're going through stuff. But what kept me focused is I thought, you know what, people have committed. They are now trusting me to deliver this thing. No matter what, I need to make sure this book comes out. Towards the end, we're now having our final discussions. It was one woman who was in there, and I remember inviting her to talk about the book or the opportunity to participate. She kept postponing and postponing, and I kept thinking, why do I keep going after I need to give up on this woman? I didn't, for some reason. I kept thinking, you need maybe today talk to her for the last time. If she does not enroll, leave her out.
Yeah.
So on the day that I'd said, okay, I'm not gonna do this again. Once we talk, if she's not, and then she submitted her subscription, and we started writing. Weeks later, we were having a meeting, and because it was my first time to work with a group like that, there were some disgruntlement. This is part of working with people.
Yeah.
Yes. And she said, I don't know what you're complaining about. Because for me, if I am to be honest, this process has saved my life.
Wow.
She said I was avoiding to write, but eventually, when I decided to write and I put pen to paper, I started to heal, because on that day that I spoke to Monica, I had decided to take my life.
Wow.
And so each time I want to complain about that being a lot of work, I think about that one person that I could potentially save because they have decided to share their story.
Indeed.
And that is what then that one story pushes me, even though I also, like during this pandemic, apart from working with my clients who are doing their own stories, I've also received a lot of phone calls from people who were about to take their lives.
Wow.
And you realize that, so these gifts, the gift to listen, the gift of having empathy, the gift of patience, the gift of this, there's so many gifts that one can just sit down, who's probably thinking I've got nothing to give.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just sit down and list all the gifts that you have, or ask 10 of your friends to tell you about the gifts that you bring to the table. Send them an
Yes.
email, ask them. They will all tell you, you'll be so amazed on,
Indeed. You'd be so
on what you,
surprised.
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
of the gifts that you have that could potentially help others, or could potentially form a business for you.
Yes, absolutely. You're right. I think we all have so many expertise. And I shared this the other day with some of the women in my network. We have everything that we need within us. And some of us, we don't really realize it. And we just need to see what other people see in us. Just like you said, ask 5 to 10 people to kind of, help you in terms of identifying what it is that they feel that you're good at. That's the first step, really. And taking it from there, you can definitely have yourself a great business at hand, which is really good. I really like everything that you've said, all the great tips that you've shared today. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to have you, your powerful story. Thanks for sharing this on this platform. And I hope that it has inspired so many of our listeners today. And just to round up, I just wanted to share a few, simple steps in terms of how we can also continue to boost our resilience. So, number one is about restructuring your attitude, which we've already spoken about. And it's really about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Sometimes we have to do things that are not really comfortable, that pushes us out of our comfort zone. So it's about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then number three, it's about building your support network, which my guest has rightfully said. It's about ensuring that there are people in your network who can actually help you, support you, guide you, challenge you, and cheer you on. And also number, five, it's about being grateful again and again and again. Gratitude, we already mentioned that. It's so important that we have the heart of being grateful at all times. And the final one, it's about taking time out for yourself so that we don't get overwhelmed and that we don't really get burnout. So these are the great tips that we are bringing to you today collaboratively with my amazing guest, Monica. I want to say thank you so much, Monica. The power of your story, it's really great. The power of resilience, it's really commendable. I want to say thank you so much for coming to our platform to share your story. It has inspired me, and I know that it has inspired so many other people. So we just want to encourage you to keep shining the light on many women and girls around the world who are being forced or pressured into doing things that they don't want to do or being deprived of education. I think, your project and the upcoming events that you're going to be doing will be so powerful to really change the lives of young people as well as women around the world or in your local area. So thank you so much. I just wanted to ask you, any last word of encouragement as we wrap up?
Before I give my last word, I want to appreciate you. I want to thank you for creating a platform where we courageously
Yeah.
share what we have been through so that we help others to heal. We help other women and men to grow and live in our purpose. This program is called Birth Your Vision. We bring forth, and this program encourages people to continue to do that. My final word is be real, be authentic.
Yeah.
And when you discover the authentic you, everything else follows, because it would mean that anything that is not natural to you as a human being cannot stick. Be a builder of others. Always think about helping another person grow. Help another person heal. There's so much pain that is going on in the world right now. Just listen. Sometimes you don't even need to do anything.
Yeah.
Just let them speak. And you just listen and acknowledge and say, I hear you. That might just be what that person needs for them to say, okay, I'm not alone. I can get up and march on and do what I am supposed to do and follow my gift, live my purpose, and help others. I appreciate you for bringing me on your program.
Thank you so much, Monica. That was definitely heartfelt. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to all my guests. Thank you once again for joining us for another wonderful episode of Birth Your Vision. And I would like to say thank you to all the wonderful listeners, and your support is really, really appreciated. And join me next week again with another guest. I'll be bringing another amazing guest who will be sharing their inspirational story to inspire, to motivate you, and to also keep you motivated and birth those wonderful visions that you've had in you for such a long time. By you listening to my guest and following their journey, you'll be able to birth your own vision as well. So thank you so much once again. To continue to get our mailing list, please get in touch with us. All the links will be shared in the comment section below. And also, for so many of you who are interested in also hosting your own podcast show, well, I have an amazing news for you. I'm able to now teach and also help you to launch your very own podcast show in my wonderful 6 weeks coaching program. So if you want more information, check in the show notes. You'll be able to see all the wonderful information there. So until next time, take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great evening. Bye for now.
Thank you.